The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a series of 11 webinars designed to give you practical information to help you accelerate the growth of your business. My name is Peter Jeffrey and I'm the Business Development Manager for the City of Greater Bendigo. On behalf of the City, we're proud to partner with the team at the Business Re-Education Centre in Bendigo to bring you high-quality, practical information about how to grow your business through simple and effective actions and measures. Grab a pen and please be ready to take some notes so that you can be sure to implement the actions that you identify as appropriate for your business. I strongly encourage you to act on this advice, even if it's the most simple suggestion that captures your attention. At the end of this webinar, there will be mention to future events that I also encourage you to consider for further business support. At the City, I work within the Economic Development Unit and we're focused on bringing high calibre events and initiatives to you to enhance the success of the local business community and businesses like yours. If you would like to know more, please contact the team at the City of Greater Bendigo to discuss all available options for local small business on 5434 6000. Now, I'd like to introduce your presenter, Paul Henschel, who's the CEO for the Australasian region for Action Coach International. With over 20 years experience, I'm sure he's got some great information to share. So now it's over to you. Thanks, Paul.
Great. Thank you, Peter. That's great to have you here, and as always, and great to be on the line with a few people in and around Bendigo and further afield. I'm sure to talk today about an area that's of particular interest, I guess, and needs to be for anybody that's developing a business beyond themselves, and of course that is about building a team and building a great team. Can I just ask, just to get a little bit of I guess a little bit of feedback from those people that are on the webinar this afternoon, would I be able to get a feedback if you could type in? It lets me know that you're listening, you're hearing me, and that you can also input on the right hand side. And just in terms of how many people that you might currently lead as manage or lead. I wonder whether you could just put a number in for me into the box where you can type in on the right hand side there. Just give me a bit of an idea about what sort of numbers people are managing. A team of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it might be. Let me actually have a look and see whether we can get some feedback from everybody. We've got teams of 9, 6, 2, 7, 12, none. Okay, that's a team in progress, isn't it? Team of none. Well, it's actually a team of 1. You'd be leading yourself, which is definitely the first thing. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks everyone. Just a little bit of feedback there from some of the people that are out there. Great, excellent. Also means that you can hear me okay. Okay, so whether we lead none or whether we lead 12 or whether it be 20 or whether it be 250, let's spend this next hour figuring out how best to do that. And we've got 2 issues about leading and managing, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But here's the first one that I guess that I always have to put up, and it sometimes obviously comes as a bit of a shock to lots of people that they sort of go, I just don't understand why I don't have better people. Well, if you start from the premise that you get the people you deserve, it means that you can start to do something about it, because it means that the solution, if you like, to a better team lies in yourself as a better manager and a better leader. Team members will do what you allow them to do. You chose them in the first place, so there's the first aspect of it. And in fact, in our next webinar in a month's time, we talk about recruiting. But You chose them in the first place, so that's the first thing, and you get to do what you need to do with them. I've got some phones ringing, wouldn't you know it? So you get the people you deserve. Let's move on from that as just as a first thought anyway, and understand then that it's all about you, the leader and the manager, to actually do something about that. Okay, so let's have a look and see what we can do about it. Let's start with the issue around called above and below the line. So below the line, we have teams that are full of blame, excuses, and denial. Above the line, we have ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Now, where does management and where does leadership? There's lots of talk, and there's been, obviously, if you Google leadership versus management, obviously into Google, you'd find no end of topics or no end of articles about the difference between the two. I think that below the line, when a team exhibits blame, excuses, and denial, you're fundamentally needing to manage that team. When they're above the line and it's ownership, accountability, and responsibility, I think it's at that point in time that you can lead the team without managing them. And I'll show you why. So the first thing about that is, let's look at this issue around denial. How style and create denial, and also how to manage that denial. So what is denial? Denial is simply, look at the picture. Denial is simply the inability to, I guess, recognise that something is actually wrong with me, the team person, and that's what we're really wanting to talk about. How do you manage that? So we're experiencing this with somebody. They're not seeing an issue that's obviously affecting the rest of the team, potentially the team's performance or the business's performance. You as the leader, they're really closed and in their own little world. Well, sometimes I refer to this as wonderful employee syndrome. They actually don't see that there's anything wrong with them. They think it's all about everybody else. They complain to you and everybody else that'll listen that the problem is always other people, and they leave jobs and they go somewhere else, and guess what? They find more of problems with other people. So what they experience is this wonderful employee syndrome, and maybe it comes from, I don't know, look, maybe it comes from, it's not, I don't think it's generational, but certainly that whole, whatever you do is fantastic. Well, sometimes what people do isn't fantastic, and they need to, they need somebody, and that is your job as their manager, to actually step in and tell them what's not actually right. So the first thing you've got to do is not allow the mindset to continue, not allow that it's everybody else. You've got to. I sometimes think of the man that's been married 8 times and just sort of says to all his friends, you just can't find anybody good out there, can you? At some point in time, they've got to say, maybe it's me. Maybe the problem is me. So your job is to actually alert that person to the problem, and don't allow it to continue. Don't allow that situation to continue. And the earlier you do it, the better. A situation, pardon me, left to continue is fundamentally allowing it to happen, is predominantly condoning it. There was a very good expression made by the leader of the armed forces some time ago, and it predominantly said, a problem ignored is a problem accepted. So, if you're not doing something about it, then you're fundamentally saying that's okay, and it's not okay. So you need to confront the issue. If something's not, somebody or something is not working, then you need to first of all sort of say, look, this is the situation, this is what it's creating, these are the outcomes. Okay, now what I am going to do is what I really need you to do is come up with a solution to that. What I really need you to do is to address that issue, and certainly work with them and help them to accept it and to work through some solutions. pardon me, but they'll do one of two things. They'll either change, which is great, or they will leave, which is also okay. I think the thing about that you can't allow to happen is for the situation to continue. So you can see through your own actions or inactions as why you may actually have a denial culture, either within the organisation or certainly within people. If it's organisationally, I'd suggest that the challenge for you is confrontation of any sort. If you're avoiding confrontation, then you're allowing these things to happen. I'll have a drink of water. Okay. The second situation, if you remember the ladder, is moving up the ladder is from denial is excuses. So normal behaviour would be that once somebody is challenged or a negative situation is brought to their attention, what might be their next reaction? Well, it might be an excuses type of thing, because excuses is it's progressive because it means that they now actually appreciate that there's a problem of which they're trying to make an excuse for. So you can see that it's a step up from denial in that they're proactively trying to find a reason, if you like, and adults are great at turning excuses into reasons. That's what they call it. They call them excuses, reasons. Can't do this. What we really got to do is, again, challenge that. Can't do it, don't want to do it is more likely. But here's the thing. Excuses are created by managers asking why questions. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Not what, but why. Why leads to reasons. Whys immediately lead to rationale and reasons why this existed. And so what they end up doing is creating excuses. So you might find that if you're a person that asks a lot of why questions, or you might find if you're getting a lot of excuses, then you're asking lots of why questions, which are inevitably leading to that. So data is generally the challenge is not enough data, so you're asking why questions. What we really need to do here is we need to name the scenario and again confront it. Again, you'll see there's a commonality here that says the word confront. So if you're a manager who avoids confrontation, then you'll experience a lot of these sorts of challenges. You manage this scenario with forward questions, not historical questions. Why is a historical question. It says, why did this happen? A better question would be, what are we going to do to move forward? What do we do going forward rather than why does it exist? History, is it useful? Perhaps so as you don't so it's not repeating itself. But at the end of the day, what you really need to be doing is working on solutions, which are forward-based questions, uncover solutions. Backward questions simply uncover rationales, reasons, and excuses. So you might find you're doing that. The third one, creating and managing blame. So how do we as managers find ourselves creating blame? Well, of course, we ask who questions. Who did this? Who's responsible for that? Whose job was it to do this and that? So by asking who questions, we almost encourage blame. Oh, it wasn't me, which is because of the lack of responsibility, and you can see why that becomes the step under responsibility, because we are encouraging, I guess, the response to those who questions with some sort of blame. So how do you overcome blame? How do you overcome blame within a team, collectively and individually? Well, the solution lies in building trust. So what we really need to do is we need to actually look to ways to build trust within the team to start to eliminate these issues of blame. And it's interesting that as a source of education for those that are on the webinar today around teams, there is a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and it's written by an author by the name of Patrick Lencioni. You can find it on any, Amazons and all the rest of it. He's also wrote another great book, which is called Overcoming the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which was pretty smart marketing, I guess. But what Lencioni talks about in that book is that the base of a functional or a dysfunctional team is lack of trust. He puts it squarely at the feet of this whole trust issue as to the foundations of a performing team. Is certainly the first dysfunction of a team is lack of trust, and that's the sorts of responses that we often get is this movement of blame from one person to another, certainly away from self. So again, managing it by asking forward questions rather than backward questions or reverse questions. Questions, who did this is historical. How will we solve this problem is a forward oriented question, and it's solutions based or solutions oriented. And that's again, we're moving people away from moving team members, but more importantly, moving yourself away from the sorts of questions that often lead a team to these sorts of responses. So we've looked at denial, excuses and blame, and of course where we want to move people to is responsibility, accountability and ownership. And the reason I put it as a ladder was now you can appreciate that excuses is a step up from denial, and blame is a step up from excuses, which means that if you're finding you've got a bit of a blame culture, then you're only actually one step away from responsibility. Now, again, the solution lies in building trust. Once we're just understanding around this issue about getting above the line, you can see now that in a way, very clearly, I hope, that once you're above the line, you start to talk about leadership, whereas this issue around below the line is very much about management. And leadership is very much couched in the whole context of why rather than what. Why are people doing things? What are their motivations? I mean, in a positive way. What are their own goals? What are their own aspirations and their own desires? So it's what is that of the company? What are the goals of the company? So it moves from a management to a leadership position. The question is that you need to ask yourself is, what style are you creating? What is your style, and what is that leading to in terms of what you're seeing within your team? Because that's what you can change. Certainly you can change the team. It's your choice, not always the easiest thing, but your choice to change the team. But if you change the team and don't change the style, you'll find that you just reproduce the same characteristics in a new team anyway. So it's not always a case of best option isn't just to cut the team member or team members, but in fact, first of all, make sure that your style, your management and leadership style, is a positive one. Otherwise, any new blood into that will soon be turned bad. Okay. Let's talk now about the 6 keys to a winning team, which is what I talked about in the preamble to this webinar. First of all, let's just go through them. So point 1, key number 1 to a winning team is strong leadership. We'll talk about each of these as we go through over the next 40 minutes or so. The second one is that the team have to have common goals, a common goal or common goals. The third point is that they must all understand the rules of the game. That is, are we all playing by the same rules? Do we understand what they are? Again, we'll talk about that when we get to it. The fourth point is that that there must be an action plan for people to follow. Otherwise, they will follow their own plan. That may or may not be a good thing, more than likely not a good thing. The fifth point is support risk-taking, and the sixth is 100% inclusion and participation. So let's talk about each of those things in isolation, or chunk that down to each of those. So what's your leadership style? Again, I'm using the same term here. What's your style? And what I want to run through here is the realization that there is more than one way to lead. You'll have a natural leadership style, and as we go through these styles, I'd like you to look at these and think about what your natural style actually is. So at the end of the different versions of leadership that we'll touch on, I want you to, at the end of it, decide what's your natural style, but then appreciate that there are other styles, and they all have a place in your business, and that means they all have a place in you at different times. So let's look at the first one. The first style is the visionary, the person that it's all about where we're going, what will happen when we get there, what life will be like for our company and ourselves when we reach our targets. It's very emotional. It's very Martin Luther King, to quote one historical visionary style of leader. So it's not about the detail. It's not about the roads and the choices and the stops that we're going to make along the way. It's all about holding a very big picture out there, a very big shining light, and continuing to motivate and get the best out of people purely on their by enrolling and inspiring people by that vision. The second type is the coach. So that's the person that fundamentally leads a little bit, examples, and then, if you like, supports people along the way. It inches them forward, provides a fair bit of feedback around, what they're good and what they're not good at, identifies their strengths and weaknesses, works with them on their weaknesses, and certainly to enhance their strength. Much more a beside role rather than in front of role, and is constantly giving feedback, constantly making tweaks to edge their team and team members forward. It's a coaching style of leadership. The third type, and these are in no particular order, by the way, is the affiliate leadership style, and the affiliate is one that basically gets in and becomes a part of the team. Now, the challenge with this one, of course, is it can lead to some issues around, can you really lead a team by being a part of it? Well, yes, you can. It actually is the affiliate style of leadership. And it can be very much a case of, as I say, we're all in this together. I can get in there, I can grab people literally, or not, by their shoulders of sorts, and walk with them and really be a part of that group moving forward. That's the affiliate style of leadership. Again, what I'm looking for here is to appreciate that there are multiple styles, and you will have a natural style. The fourth one here is called the Democrat. So what's the Democrat do? Well, the Democrat looks to get lots of opinion, lots of feedback around where we should go, what we should be doing, tries to get, that whole leadership by involvement, and everybody's got to be a part of every decision going forward. Is that your style? Do you relate to that sort of style? The next style, I've lost track of the numbers, but the next one is the Pacesetter, and that says it's a sort of a watch me type of leadership style. Watch how hard I can run, and everybody run right up behind me. So I'm going to run fast. I'm going to set the pace here. I'm going to be in front of you, but I'm only just going to be a little bit in front of you. The failing here is often they don't look behind them to find out how fast the rest of the team is actually running, and whether they're actually got the ability to modify their pace to the pace of the team. So the race car or the pace car, I think it's called in the case of this picture, doesn't set the pace. It actually just goes in front of the fastest horse. That's the pace that it sets. That's once it takes off, and it builds the speed up, and the rest of the horses match that. So they try to keep up with that barrier, and they know if they're falling behind or getting in front by where they are compared to that barrier. So the pace setter leader does the same sort of thing. A good pace setting leader will make sure that the pace is just ahead of the fastest one, but not streets ahead of the slowest one. Otherwise, the team splits apart. Okay. Our next one, our friend Russell, is the commander. So what's the commander do? Well, the commander is very orders oriented. It's very much a case of do this, do that, don't ask questions, just get it done. That's the commander. Obviously portrayed, this picture says most of it. It says I have a team or a crew behind me, and fundamentally they just respond to my orders. Now, are you able to identify which type of leader that you are naturally? Hopefully you can. But what I want you to think about is how those other styles, or what situations those other styles are best utilised in. Let's take the example, and you can appreciate why the military, the commander, is a military-oriented, often seen, in a military environment. If you're wandering, if you're a part of a squad, a military team, and you're wandering through the bush, probably, hopefully not wandering, but working your way through the bush, and suddenly there was an ambush, so things got pretty heated, things pretty hot pretty fast. You don't need a democratic style of leadership. There's no benefit by getting everybody together and go, what do you think we should all do about this? The team is in that situation looking for a leader who's going to tell them what to do. And the military is in that situation most of the time. They are, life-threatening situations that require instantaneous decisions, not affiliation, not let's give you a bit of feedback on that. Appreciate that those are different. Those are meant for different situations. So if you're applying the same style to all situations, then I'd suggest that you're missing a lot of opportunity in your leadership. So you need to be able to be adaptive in your leadership to appreciate what does this situation require me to do? What style of leadership does it require right now? And different people and different teams need different styles. So you've got this ability you need to have this ability to be flexible so that you can apply different styles to different people at different times. And that's true skill. That's where this true skill of leadership comes in, not adopting one style. So what that means that will happen, that if you're not adaptive and you're not responsive and you're not aware, that what you'll do is you will inevitably lead in one particular way. Now, think about what that does, or what influence that has on your team. What sort of team eventually does a commander end up with? It ends up, well, the answer is it ends up with a team of dependent people who are always looking for that person to make the decision. They don't make decisions on their own. They require and expect decisions to be made fast and made by you. And so what happens is if you recruit different people into your team that commander style doesn't suit, they will leave, and you will end up with that group of people who fundamentally respond well and only to a commander style. So you end up building a team of people that suit your style, which you might think is great, but what you do is on the other side of things then go, well, I'm a commander style of leader. I've got a team of people who are appropriate to that style, and then I wonder why and then I complain because they don't show initiative or make decisions. You see how the leadership style is actually creating the team and the characteristics of that team. So the question, folks, is that how you're influencing, your style is influencing the shape and the nature of your team. Which style do you need to be at what times? And I ask the question, is situational possible for you? That means situational leadership. You have to appreciate what the situation is and what style of leadership, and I haven't covered all of the styles of leadership. If you Google styles of leadership, you'll find more. But is it possible for you to be situational in your leadership style? Hopefully, that's your goal, is to become situational. If you're not, perhaps you could extend it by at least be aware of that, have enough insight, and be appraise your own style frequently enough, or ask other people to. At the end of the day, if you really want to see what sort of a leader you are, look at your team. Look at what their characteristics are. Look at the size of that team, and you'll appreciate what sort of a leader you actually are, not what you think you are. Okay, hopefully that's the message. So strong leadership is all about characteristics, and we want to spend the rest of the time moving through these 6 points. Strong leadership is built around characteristics, and I've put down a few characteristics, and perhaps this is a good opportunity for maybe people to type in, if you would, perhaps a characteristic that you believe is a characteristic of a strong leader. Perhaps just a word, a characteristic of a strong leader. Could I get you to give me a little bit of feedback on that and see what sort of things that you're coming up with? Let's have a look and see. A good listener, thanks for that, Lynn. Any others? Other leadership characteristics? And here's I'll start to put a few up myself on here, and see whether you connect with some of these. Good, strong leaderships are passionate. They're passionate about their cause. Think about all of the world's the strong leaders of history, and tell me one that's not necessarily been passionate about their cause. Not passionate about everything, but very passionate about their cause. And in fact, they're almost identified by their cause, and that's how strong, how passionate they've been about it. Because it is about leading people to what? Here's some of the other characteristics that I've put, and thanks for some of those feedbacks. Resilient. It means that they can, the school of hard knocks, they're able to actually bounce back up again. They're decisive. They don't wishy-washy sort of what do you think's all of the time, but they are in fact, and certainly once they've got the information, they make decisions. Back in 1936, there was a book written called Think and Grow Rich, and in that book, the one thing that Napoleon Hill, who wrote that book, said the greatest constraint to successful business is the inability, or the constraint is the ability to make decisions, or the inability to make decisions. And he said, and I would suggest that now we have the same issue that we had that he identified in 1936, is that not enough people who are put in the position to make decisions make them and stick with them. Also important. Other characteristics, they're inclusive. They actually do consider other people. They actually bring other people into the processes. They're determined. They are, I guess it's a characteristic. It's not passionate per se, but but they are very determined, usually around that passion. They have a cause. They have a purpose. They have a why. This is really important, as to they actually have a why rather than just what. They are motivational, meaning that they can create movement in other people. That they can create that movement in others. They're interested. Charismatic's an interesting one. I did a study on charisma, and certainly there is an attribute called charisma that is a part of leadership. Now, what it doesn't mean is that, sorry, I'll go back to those. It doesn't necessarily mean that every leader has to have all of these characteristics. But I think what we have seen is some of these characteristics are evident in all great leaders. So I hope you got the definition there. To be a great leader, you don't need them all, but all of them exist in great leaders to some extent. Not all of them in the same leader, though. So what the question then comes from that is, if they're some of the characteristics of strong leadership, then the question is, how do you compare in terms of your leadership? Do you have any of those, or all of those, or some of those? And if you look at some of those characteristics, again, it's not an exhaustive list, but where might you find the ability to increase the strength of your leadership by being more of one or two of those characteristics? So it's about strengthening some of those characteristics, or even maybe just one, to strengthen your leadership. Do you need to be more passionate? Do you need to be more resilient, more decisive? What is it going to be for you in terms of strengthening your leadership? Because these are the characteristics that are actually a part of strong leadership. So make comparisons between those characteristics and your own. Moving on, common goals. This fundamentally means that we've all got to be heading in the same direction. As a team, we've got to understand what it is that we're actually striving to achieve right now. Is that our vision, our big picture, or is it very fundamentally, what do we need to do in the next year? What is it that we're trying to achieve in the next 12 months? What is it that we're trying to achieve in the next 90 days? What is it that we're trying to achieve in the next month, over the next month? What are we trying to achieve this week? You see, if we understand what it is that we're trying to achieve, which is our goals, then there are several ways to achieve those goals. And to be honest, as a leader, you employ people. I'd like to think you employ people who can decide which is the best pathways to take, or even take a few. It doesn't matter. What really matters is that you achieve the end goal. That's what's important. So if your team doesn't have goals that are in common, then what are they all doing every day? Are they all doing things in support of the same outcomes, or are they all doing things in support of what they believe or what they think is an outcome that they're trying to achieve, but it may not necessarily be the same goal for everybody? Now, having said that, as individuals, they don't have the same goals. But what you need to understand is, what are the goals of the individuals that are working for you as a leader? What are their personal goals? And how does the achievement of the business's goal or goals fulfill their personal goals? Hopefully that makes sense. I'll say it again. Understanding the team's personal goals and how they're linked to the business goal is very important. Now that, once we achieve this as a business, how does that lead to increased forward movement in the advancement or the achievement of their own personal goals? That's when you'll get real strong connection and real strong momentum and very strong support. But realistically, you can set you don't set the business's goals around their personal ones, but what you do is link the two together. So how many goals? Well, too many is distraction. One major goal in a period of time is significant and gets us focused. I mean, the point of focus, or the word focus, means all aimed at the same thing. You know, when we focus a set of lights on a single point, the intensity of that on that is massive compared to the you know, the individual light shone on any particular area. So that is really important to go back to your team and start to appreciate and understand and set and articulate articulate what the actual goals of the team are, because you might be surprised. In fact, a really good bit of feedback or something you can do this afternoon is go and ask your team, do you understand, do you know what our current goals are? I wonder how many people can actually tell you, and I wonder how what sort of level of sameness that you have in terms of response from everybody. So the rationale, as I've already said, goals give direction and focus. So they give us somewhere to go, and they give us a real focal point to pinpoint, nail down. And they also do this other thing. They give us movement and momentum. Whenever somebody is not moving, and this is something that you can apply to your team members, if you find they appear to be going nowhere, it's because they don't have goals. Once we've got a goal, we actually create momentum. We get movement and momentum, and it would be the same as if I guess I threw you a set of keys to the car, gave you a set of keys, and said nothing. I mean, your question will be, the question of everybody is, well, where am I going? And the inability to answer that question would almost invariably see the keys being handed back. It says, well, if I've got nowhere to go, why bother giving me the keys in the car? There's, you know, so tell me I need to get somewhere and let me get on with getting there. Okay, so think about that. Look into the people and go, okay, they're seemingly unattached, inactive, no real direction or focus. Establish goals. Okay. The third point, I call it rules of the game. Rules of the game is most easily summed up in a business sense, in a business team, in a company or a business, in terms of its values. It is fundamentally what are the overriding, the big rules of our game. You know, we need to know how to play, what is allowed, what isn't allowed. And it generally goes back to not so much policy, but above policy is values. So think about the road. Think about our road rules or whatever. If everybody had the same values around respect for other people, around danger or risk, the dangers created in different situations. If we all had the same values, we would need very few rules, or we certainly need very few laws, and we wouldn't need a whole lot of law enforcement, because you see, everybody would be doing the right thing, and the right thing is according to your values. The right thing is values oriented, not necessarily process oriented. The process is the way to do it. The value is why we do it that way. So values is based around how we do things around here. And if we understood the values of the team leader or the owner or whatever, wherever they've come from, and we all played by the rules, then I would suggest then a lot of team challenges would disappear. It's the difference in values that often leads to the differences within conflict within team. You know, one person's highest value is their deliverable to a client, and the other is their sales, you know, money in the bank. And if those two things become a tension between in one situation, one will win over the other. What we want to do as a team is we want to have cohesive values. We want to establish what are the team's values. So the next thing you can do is go back to the team and go, let's establish our team values. Now you might say, oh, our company's got values. Okay, ask the team if they know what they are. Ask the team whether they're necessarily relevant. I don't mean that you create another set of values that's not congruent with the company's, but might you have your own team values that are more defined than potentially some of the corporate values that I've seen, which look like to me just impressive words on a piece of paper that aren't reflective of the values of the actual people that work there. So if you've got a small team of people, and a small team, looking at the numbers that you fed back to me, I'd suggest everybody's got a small team in the larger scheme of things. It's entirely possible to go back and say, let's establish what it is that will be our guiding values for our team going forward. So what are the key attributes that we want to see? Do we want to see trust, integrity, fun, accountability? What will be our key values as a team going forward? Hopefully that makes sense in terms of the rules of the game. Imagine a sporting game where the team ran out and they didn't actually understand the rules. The thing would be an absolute mess. People would be just doing anything, literally. If all they did was understand that the objective, the goal, is to kick a goal or shoot a goal, but there were no rules to guide what's appropriate in terms of achieving that outcome, then they would go ahead and do it any old way that they think is the best way, with the right intention, but the wrong rules. Okay. What's number 4? Number 4 is called your action plan. So do you have one? Do you have a plan to achieve those common goals? Does everybody have a plan that they're following in some way? Now, it doesn't have to be a 100-page plan, but it does need to be fundamentally, how are we going to achieve these common goals? We've known we understand now our values, which says what rules do we need to follow in achieving these goals. Take the sporting scenario. We want to win the game, or we want to kick goals, or we want to land goals, or we want to hit the mark. And we understand what the rules are around what we can and can't do in support of that. But what is our actual strategy to achieve that goal? Otherwise, we end up with dreams and nothing more, because in my opinion, goals without a plan are dreams. So, you don't want to dream, you don't want to just hope. Hope's not a strategy. Hope that we'll achieve those outcomes. What's our actual plan? So when you look at your team and you go, well, they seem to be doing the same things. Nobody seems to be heading in the same direction. They don't know what direction. They haven't got a plan to follow. Is it any wonder that sometimes we look at these things and, you're frustrated with the team, but I'm almost 100% sure the team's frustrated by their lack of information about not just what are we trying to achieve here, but how are we going about this? What is our plan going forward? So you need to sit down with the team. So we've got, okay, as a strong leader with some of those characteristics that we've talked about, by adopting some of those characteristics, you start to set a common goal, a vision, and some well-articulated outcomes. You put forward the rules by which we'll actually go about it, and you actually go, and what will be our strategy and tactics going forward? Make sense? What are we actually going to do? Now we've got some cohesion. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So point number 5 is support risk-taking. Okay. What does that mean? Does that mean that just allow people to go out and do whatever they like? This is controlled risk-taking. But here's the thing. Unless you allow people to make mistakes, they will fail to take a step forward. If they're so scared of making a mistake, doing it wrong, getting the wrong outcome, you'll find that they start to shut down activity. They certainly shut down creativity. They shut down initiative. They just aren't prepared to take a risk because of let's say the implications, and that might mean that I can do a dozen things right, and as soon as I do something wrong, that's the only thing that gets recognised. That's the sort of thing that I'm talking. We're not. What that'll do is, as I say, it will shut down people's wantingness and wantingness to actually do anything that is beyond the known. And of course, your team, your business won't succeed by just continuing always to do the same things. It needs to find new ways, better ways, smarter ways to compete. And to do that, we have to actually be prepared to take some steps into the unknown. Now, if we've got a team that's unwilling to do that, then we're, as a business, as a collective, we're not going to go very far. So we need to encourage people to actually think outside squares. We need to encourage people to actually look for new ways of doing things. We need to encourage them to test some new ways of doing things, to find out. But the journey starts with a foot forward, and a foot forward is fundamentally also the first action of falling over. Try walking without necessarily initially falling forward. The actual step forward, the action of a step, is to fall and then stop the fall with the front foot. So if we're not prepared to move, we're not prepared to fall, we will stay exactly where we are. And that's the biggest risk that you take in business of any sort nowadays. The biggest risk that you actually have is not keeping up, is not changing quickly enough to meet the market or the opportunity. And that is what business is really all about. And the leaders in business are those that are actually being prepared to do something different and take a risk. Okay. What's the last one? Well, the last one is this one: 100% inclusion in involvement. And for those that are on the webinar that are mums or dads, you'll probably, first thing you look at this picture and go, oh dear, look at that, how sad. The strength of the group is only let's call it, is as strong as its weakest link. It might sound like a cliche, but it's your job as a manager and leader to make sure that everybody in the team is included in the team. That's your job. Get them, so that we don't have bystanders, we don't have people left out. Your job is to encourage participation, is to insist on participation. Do you have people at meetings that don't participate, that don't contribute? Well, what are you doing about that? Are you bringing them in and getting them involved? Are you making sure that people are a part of what's going on and a part of the journey and a part of the process and all of that? Or are you allowing people to step out, and are you allowing perhaps other members of the group to maybe they encourage it by their action or whatever, or certainly your inability to, or your inaction is leading to that situation continuing on. So this 100% inclusion involvement, we've got to make sure that all of our team are actually on board. And your job is to work as hard with the people that are, if you like, falling behind or falling out of the team, not just to simply work with the strength. There are people who will say, well, you work with the leaders, work with the strong people, and everybody else will be encouraged by their lead. Yes and no. I mean, I certainly think that there are times when that's certainly true, but there are certain times when you just have to go and get people and bring them in and get them to be a part of the organisation, get them on board with the goals, get them to understand the values, get them to actually support the plan, and all of those sorts of things. I mean, sometimes they maybe actually step outside of their comfort zone because of this risk profile. They've got a low risk profile. They don't want to upset anybody. They don't want to make waves or whatever. So big part of your job is to do that. So, you need to build a culture of participation. So perhaps potentially it becomes a part of your values, that participation is a value within your company. So you encourage team activities. You pick up the strays, and communicate often. Hold team meetings. Hold team meetings for the purpose of engaging people, not for the purpose of communicating. Hold team meetings for the purpose of connecting people, not simply communicating with them. You can communicate through other methods. When you pull people together, it's for the collective good of there's a reason why those people needed to come together. Connection, synergy, meaning that the whole is worth more than the individual parts. So how often are people coming together? Do they know each other? Do they trust each other? Do they like each other? They don't have to necessarily, but there's got to be some connection there if you want a winning team. You can have any old team, but this is a winning team. Okay, so they're my 6 points. I want to finish with 9 tips for great leadership. Now, you might think that I've derived all of these points from John F. Kennedy because I put the photo up there. That's not true. So please don't assume that these was Kennedy's 9 tips for leadership. I think that we just acknowledge Kennedy for leadership qualities that he exhibited in his time of when put in a position. So, number 1, lead players, not team. So we think about we've got to lead a team, but we don't. We actually work with individuals as much as anything else. We need to lead them as individuals. Don't think that it's all just about the collective. Get next to people, know them, understand them, and really know them. Know what their goals are. Know what their likes and dislikes are. Understand them. Otherwise, they're just people. Communicate. I don't think you can over-communicate. Connect is even better, but certainly make sure people know what's going on and that they feel engaged. Brightness of future means that there's a reason for them to be, there's somewhere that they're going. When people have brightness of future, they will stay with you forever. When they lose that brightness of future, they more likely will leave. That's what they're after. What's in it for them, and is that are they enthusiastic? Are they motivated by that? A good bit of feedback I got before was a good listener. So listen to people, but actively. This is called active listening. This is not hear them. This is really hear them, understand them. When they speak, you listen. As a leader, listen more, speak less. That's true communication is governed by listening as much as speaking. Be enthusiastic. Your level of enthusiasm will dictate the level of enthusiasm of the group. So if yours is low, theirs will be low. Don't expect the team to be more enthusiastic about your goals and the future and your direction than you are. You're the benchmark. Number 7 is grow together. Make sure that they're growing. Make sure that as the business and the team grow and the outcomes for the organisation grow, that they're actually growing as a part of that as well. If the two get out of sync, if they grow faster than you, they'll leave. If you grow faster than them, you'll leave them behind. So it's really important that you keep a balanced perspective on growth. Keep the purpose and the goals meaningful. That means that you can sort of say, well, our goals, our common goals are this, but how does that connect with who they are and what their goals are? So, it's all well and good to look at the outcomes from the organisation's point of view, but unless it's connected to them, they won't buy in. You won't get buy-in. And create opportunities for others. Create opportunities for them. It's not all about you, the leader, them creating opportunities for you. It's about you creating opportunities for them. And if you think about great leaders of history, you'll probably appreciate that most of those, if not all of those aspects, are pretty well exhibited in great leaders. Okay, so I know our time's nearly up. But what I want you to be aware of, I guess, is I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you've gotten some gold nugget out of today that you can go away and take. Of course, I will always, as is always the case, you need to go away and do something. You need to go away and do something different, not just get the information, but go and do something that you think will make a difference to your leadership, and let's have a look and see what that difference will create. Okay, our next webinar before you go is called The Right Person in the Right Job. It's about understanding how to recruit and all the aspects about bringing the right people in the first place. So maybe we should have done that first, but we've talked about how to handle people once they're in the organisation. This is actually also how to make sure that you're getting the right people in the first place, because if you do get the wrong people in the first place, all of those things may actually be like seed on stone. They may actually not work if you've got the wrong person in the first place. So Thursday the 8th from 5 till 6, a different time frame. You can make a booking through that through businessreeducation.com.au. And of course, as always, today's webinar will be available for replay on our website, which of course is businessreeducation.com.au. Go to webinar recordings and you'll find and you'll be able to download. If you'd like to let somebody else know about today's webinar, please, I'd love you to share that. Perhaps obviously the learnings you got from it, but also if you think somebody else might be get value out of today's webinar that wasn't on it, then please recommend it to other people if you can, and tell them to go to our website. Okay, I think we're right on time at 1 o'clock, so I'll thank you. If you've got any questions, so often I time these and I think, okay, do we have any questions? If we've got any questions, can you please, I encourage you, please sit down. If you've got a question, then ask a quick question is 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, written by Patrick Lencioni. Patrick Lencioni. If you Google it in, Lencioni, I think. But if you got anywhere close to that, it'll come up with that. 5 Dysfunctions, Patrick Lencioni. Thanks for the question. Any other questions you have on anything that we talked about or I talked about today, please email me a question. Email me, even if you want to sort of say, email me with, hey, would you have 5 minutes to have a quick chat? Anything like that. More than happy to. So I'll leave you with that. I again thank you for your participation, your active listening, and I look forward to any questions that you might have. And I certainly look forward to you being able to implement some of these strategies to increase your leadership and therefore your team. Okay, we'll call it a day there. Again, thanks very much, and see you on the next one. Bye for now.